Well, everybody, that was an epic failure. Sorry. That's all I gotta say. Sorry. I put out so many videos yesterday. It was absurd. I kind of overcorrected because I didn't get my Sunday in construction video out till yesterday, and then I overcorrected by producing Monday and Tuesday's videos, and I realized they almost say the identical thing. And filming on that iPhone 3GS was a terrible idea. I was hoping to get like a little bit of a retro look to it and maybe do some filtering to make it kind of look like a Star Wars hologram. Well, let's just say that didn't work, so we're not going to do that anymore. But at least I tried something new, right? So, with that out of the way, today we're going to be talking about Master Soul. We've already talked about May and OSHA a little bit, and I'm hoping to talk about them in a little bit more detail, but I feel like we need to talk about Master Soul in order to carry on this series a little bit. So, who is Master Soul? 1, he's compassionate. 2, he's definitely a very authentic person, but I think the biggest thing is that he's someone that acknowledges fault. And the cool thing when that happens is that you want to seek redemption. Someone who wants to seek redemption on a continual basis is someone you can trust. Now, unfortunately for Master Soul, the one time he strives to follow his conscience, he is instructed by other members of the Jedi Order to not do so. Primarily by his colleague, Master Andara. Now, we have Kalnaka and Torben. Both of those people had different circumstances, and we're going to get to those two characters tomorrow. But for the sake of this video, we're primarily focusing on Master Soul and a little bit of Master Andara. So Master Andara is an interesting person because she is somebody who is not just somebody who wants people to be taught, mentored, or cared for. She wants people to also seek accountability. However, this comes into conflict with her own existence as she finds herself contradicting herself, unfortunately, due to an incident. What is that incident? Well, we're going to get into it. But before we do, spoiler alert, this is your final warning for spoilers. If you have not watched The Acolyte, you are missing out. All I've got to say is that this is the most original Star Wars content we've received in a long time, and I am grateful for it, even if if it in general only ends up being one season. This show represents so much in storytelling and creative writing. I can hardly believe that we got something this original from something so historically Skywalker in Star Wars, if you know my meaning. Master Andara and Master Soul, they end up going to this wonderful planet. They're looking for signs of life. During the Great Hyperspace Disaster 150 years prior or so, the Jedi are faced with a challenge as they're trying to resolve issues to the Blight, Marchion Ro, and so many other characters from the books. The books are, in a lot of ways, not essential for this series, which I do appreciate. However, if you are well-versed in the High Republic series, both comics or books, you're definitely going to be in for a treat, because there's a lot of Easter eggs you find throughout the series. Next, we run into some of our other favorite people, OSHA and May. Now, as mentioned, this is primarily going to be about Master Soul. Well, what is our objective with today's video? Well, the primary objective is to find out whether or not Master Soul was justified in containing the truth and holding that to himself, even if he knew that there would be short-term pain. So there's a couple things I want to bring up. We know that eventually OSHA turns on her former master and kills Master Soul. The second thing we know is that May isn't as manipulated. She saw the whole thing, and she had most of the grieving process taken care of. She just had that bitterness, hatred, and anger, and all of that resentment built up. And now, if you take that in stark contrast, Osha has been lied to for over a decade, and that can destroy a person. So the short of it is, when you look at these two different people, Osha was on a trajectory for happiness, kindness, and compassion, while May was on a very destructive path, and now they have swapped because they got different needs met at the same time. Well, by same time, I mean like the same timetable. So, with that being said, you now look at Osha. Osha was taken in by the Jedi Order, and she was trained to be a Jedi Knight. Unfortunately, she left the Order before her Jedi trials, and she never got past the rank of Padawan. Now, if you look at May, she definitely progressed continuously. Like I said, she had that resentment, that anger, and probably a lot of fear. Because when you look at them in the back, they do these backwards episodes where they go back in time, and the one thing you see consistently is that May is more bold, May is more willing to take risks, and Osha is more timid, compassionate. She wants to help others. She doesn't want to lie or deceive. She wants to be honest. That sounds like a lot of the personality traits you find in Master Soul, which is great. But like I said, unfortunately, there was a critical error made when the Jedi broke into the temple as Torben stormed the walls to try and prove that there was a vergence in the Force in order to go home. Homesickness is just as much as a disease as, being sick, depression, anxiety, any of those types of things. But it could also be a physical ailment such as the flu or a cold, right? They're both poignant, but for different reasons. And his sadness of missing home drove him to do something quite reckless. When he put his foot where it shouldn't have been, he ended up doing something crazy. That craziness led him down, unfortunately, a dark path that ended up taking the Barash vow and basically living a solitude life, meditating for ever, essentially, until you break the vow. The hard thing with all of these characters playing crucial roles with each other's fate is that we find that Master Soul is probably, if not the centerpiece of all of these problems. Because Osha wants to be a Jedi. May doesn't want to lose her family. May and Osha both lose their family anyway, and to boot, Osha gets lied to by Master Soul. Master Soul is conflicted in a lot of ways, but the one thing he is not is intentionally deceitful. I use the word intentionally, so don't at me, okay? But you look at the way she interacts with Master Soul, and it's very much like your mother or your father-daughter relationship, And so, because of that, there was a lot of trust. The only problem with that relationship is it started on a pile of deceit. Even though those intentions were good, because without those deceitful actions, she would have never been able to become a Jedi, let alone a Jedi Padawan in the first place. And so with all of those things going on, the thing you start to see compile on each other are things such as anxiety, fear, depression, and the biggest thing is anger. She is furious that she lost her family, and she blames her sister, the only person she truly loved and cared for, other than probably Master Soul. With all of her hate and fear, she kills her master without a weapon, and we get to see probably one of the coolest things in Star Wars, which is the bleeding of a lightsaber, but that's neither here nor there. Master Soul, through all of his flaws, still tried to do the right thing, and he was incredibly nurturing, very compassionate, and always tried to do the right thing. To his dying breath, he was still a Jedi. He was still one of the best among us. Why? Because he was taking care of the person, trying to console her feelings, her emotions, her anger, her fear, and her despair. All of those things were kind of just wrapped into a ball and rolled to Soul's feet. And before Soul dies, he breaks all that tension up and lets her become who she truly is. Isn't that all we really want in life? Is to be who we are, come from a place of sadness, a place of darkness, rise from the ashes, be that phoenix, be that rising star, and become someone new? I compare this, to any form of trauma, whether it's harassment or, coming to terms with your sexuality, or even mending relationships with your parents. All of these things can happen by recognizing who you are as a person. And as soon as you do that, those relationships improve. And sometimes they improve tenfold or greater. And so the impressive thing with all of this is that we learn time and time again that we really want to care for one another. So who do you care for? And do you care to change? Now, if you look at all of those things that were said, I am probably not the best narrator in the world, but at least you get an idea of how crazy this is. He is still someone who vastly cares for his former student, regardless of which path she chooses. If that isn't compassion, love, or genuine admiration, I don't know what it is. But it is beautiful, even though it does take a dark turn. Although Master Soul is gone, we still have several more characters to go. And until next time, this has been my Coffee Corner, and I'll catch you on the next one.